think that, man, maybe I better think about this. Maybe I better think about where I'll be spending eternity. I just had a friend go to a bank 2 years ago in Tulsa to make a deposit, and they were robbing the bank. They shot the bank manager. They murdered the beautiful young lady who was the teller, shot her and killed her, and they shot him. 2 years ago, they shot him. He was walking in that bank. He was a successful businessman. The only thing he was going to do there was make a deposit, and he ends up getting shot. Do you think maybe he might think, gee whiz, where would I have gone if I'd have been shot? What would have happened to me? So that's what the reason is right now.
Have you always been this religious, or is this something that came along later in life?
Well,
spiritual?
I think everybody, too, would like to wrap everything up and put a nice, neat bow on it. Unfortunately, I can't. In my book, I talk about the fact that I was raised in the church and very deeply convicted in that I believed in Jesus Christ. But then I also started talking about how the rebellion set in. And you see, I think that a lot of very well-meaning churches start trying. You see, they make it so like anybody, they get you to where anybody can understand how to become saved, so to speak, as the term is used. But then as soon as you're saved, it's almost like, well, now then that you're saved, we're going to tell you all the things you have to do so you can't lose your salvation. And that's when they start in all that, and they've got this performance thing all geared up to where if you do this, this, and this, then you don't lose your salvation. But if you do this, this, and this, you lose your salvation and you're kicked off the team. And here's the problem in America, and the problem in our world, is that everybody wants to measure up. We all want to measure up. We all want to be a part of something. We all want to be a part of a family or part of a team. We want to be a winner. We want to be part of this, okay? And so then the hardest thing in the world is, do we make the team? And if somebody says, well, you made the team, but now you're not making the team, you're kicked out. Do you get kicked off the team? And this is a horrible thing to put people into. So here's Almighty God, who invested so much of himself into having a relationship with us. He's the only God of any religion that says, I love you so much that I want a relationship with you. I love you so much that I will send my own son to pay the penalty for your sin, because I want to have an eternal relationship with you. He's the only God that does that. And so, you know, that was huge. So in my rebellion, all these years of rebellion, you know, I turned my back on that. And I went into the desert of all that. But I don't care whether you believe in God or you don't believe in him. God's laws are absolute. See, here's another thing, another big trap. We're into a society of relativism, and we're trying to do away with anything that says there's absolute right and absolute wrong.
Absolutely.
And so what happens then is, if you don't have a model for absolute right and absolute wrong,
right,
then all of a sudden you have no basis for your moral and ethical behavior.
The most recent thing is look at all the child molesters and how many people are trying to get them out.
That's just one other symptom of a sick society. Is you're exactly right. And so again, I'm telling you, there is a place that there is moral. There is a distinct set, a model for right and wrong, and that's the Holy Bible. So now, whether or not you believe the Bible or not, if you violate God's law, you will suffer the consequences. Let me give you for instance. Let's say that all of a sudden in America it's no longer against the law to commit murder. It's not against the law. Do you think then that you could commit murder and not have any consequences just because it was not against the law? Because see, it's against God's law. So let's say you believe that in America passed a law, it's not against the law to commit murder. Then do you think that you could commit murder even though it wasn't against the law and not have any consequences?
No.
No, because you would possibly face retaliation by the person or the relative of who you killed. You would also have the moral problem of dealing with it within your own conscience and your own self. You see what I mean? So no matter what, when you violate God's law, you're going to suffer the consequences here on earth. The difference is God has paid your eternal sin debt, so that you're not going to pay for it in eternity, and that's a huge thing. And so what my whole book is about the choices I made and their consequences. And if I could live my life over again, the one thing I would want to do is never to take a drink. Another thing, because if I didn't, maybe I would have been the kind of father I should have been, because you see, there are no mistakes. Every child, a child is a gift of God. God decides life. So if he gives you a child, that's a blessing from him. So then you become a steward for that child. Well, I didn't even love my children as a blessing of God enough to be a man of moral integrity, where I stayed married and didn't cheat on their mother every single night in the wrestling business. You see what I mean? And kids look at Dad like, gee, Dad, you can fix things. You're my dad. And Dad didn't fix things. And see, kids aren't going to do what you say. They're going to do what you do. So my kid said, well, Dad, you say don't drink and drive. That's right. Gosh, I got a beer in my hand and I'm doing 100 miles an hour. And then when your kids get out on the road and they get around the other guys, they find out Dad is screwing all the girls that are in the arena. Well, first of all, what does that do to a young man to think my dad is cheating on my mother? It's got to kill him. But then what does a kid want to be? He wants to be just like Dad. So then he goes and starts cheating in a dysfunctional business, and I never saw a family in wrestling that wasn't a dysfunctional family, including my own. And how subtle the delusion of Satan is, that for some reason I thought I was a pretty good father until I started looking at it in the light of God. And I realized I was a horrible father, and my kids are still paying the price for the things that I did wrong. Another thing in families, every child is unique. God doesn't make any mistakes. He doesn't make a mistake. So no child should be compared to the other. Each child should be loved completely and 100% for who they are. Instead, we are always comparing our children. Well, you've got my little brother, good gosh, what he went through. You got to be like Billy, make the same grades and play football, wrestle. What a horrible burden to put on a child instead of him just being loved for who he was. How insecure do you end up if you think you've got to have approval based upon you being or living up to a child or some peer, or to have expectations placed on you by your parents, expectations maybe they couldn't even have lived up to themselves, instead of just love. See, God doesn't make any mistakes. So if a child comes into this world crippled, he has a purpose. He still has a purpose eternally. He's a sovereign Lord. He doesn't do anything that's a mistake.
Absolutely. Well, that was a very enlightening on to who Bill Watts is as a person. I really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you.
All right. Before we wrap up, can we just give you a couple word associations?
I guess you can try.
All right. Now, we're not going to hit you with just negative names. If you have something nice to say, please do. If you have something negative to say, if you want to, you can do it. If not, just say next, and we'll go to the next one. Okay?
I got this.
Go for it.
All right. First one I'm going to give you is Gordon Solie.
I loved him. What a wonderful guy. Learned a lot, and Eddie Graham taught me one of the great lessons I learned in wrestling through Gordon Solie. And I don't know how much time you wanted to go into, but I mean, it was just awesome. Eddie Graham was a great teacher, and I learned so much from him. But Gordon Solie was a neat guy.
Bruno Sammartino.
Awesome. I have nothing but the highest respect for him. Bruno Sammartino and I liked each other from day one. We haven't seen each other probably 3 times in the last 20 years, and we still have the same amount of respect, because you see, he's a guy of principle and integrity, and he doesn't change. He doesn't change. Bruno Sammartino is a guy that I'm proud to know.
Jim Ross.
Jim Ross, well, you guys right now, you're stacking the deck. Jim Ross is another guy that I think the world of. I hired him at a very young age, so he went through every phase of Bill Watts. He probably knows Bill Watts better than Bill Watts knows Bill Watts, and he can probably tell you the things he likes and the things he don't like. But the one thing is, Jim Ross was dedicated. He loved this business, and he learned every single phase of it. Every phase. He not only was a great announcer, he became a good booker. He was also a great syndicator. Jim Ross could do it all.
Here's one for you. Crippler Ray Stevens.
Oh, I love the guy. I learned a lot from Ray Stevens, too. Ray was at the height of his career when I met him in California, and he was a complete package, and he was just one of these guys that was a natural in the ring. He was a great teacher too. Many times we got in trouble for me doing something wrong, where he would make me do it until I got it right in the ring. And then I was in a match one time with Jim Haiti, who's another great guy. Shires was smart. Most of the promoters were. When you came in, for some reason, I've always had that ability to get over and draw money, but that didn't mean that I could carry a match the proper way sometimes. So what Shires did was he put Jim Haiti with me to be my tag partner, and I was the champion. And then, so he would work me in tag matches and then build up to the championship match. And so lots of times, Haiti, they'd give me a big, huge comeback. I'd come and make the comeback, and Stevens or Patterson would say, now get back out of here and get Haiti in the ring before you kill us all. Let's get this match back under control. But one time we were in San Jose, California, and they had a match. We had a match. I was in it. I say they because